folks, it is Napalm Dawn here on G4G. We are here for some late stage bracket work for the future of Marvel Avengers Alliance Redux. So what we got going on here, in case you haven't seen me do other videos on it or haven't been on Discord or Reddit or Facebook, is that the team has put together a bracket system to decide who is going to get a one-shot in the future. When is that future date? I don't necessarily know. If you ask me, well, are you talking about a patch to beta 618 or beta 7 or final version? That you would have to come to Discord and find out, as I don't have the answer to it, but I can just simply talk about the final round of the brackets and some of the results that led us here. So I've already filled mine out, but we have Magic versus Deadpool. Kind of a tough one. Doctor Doom versus Moon Knight. Oh, and by the way, before I get into these brackets over here, I think there's two different ways that you can vote in the one-shot voting. You can vote for a character that you think needs a little bit of either a narrative boost or an E/AISO boost or gear based off of them, or you can vote the way your heart would ask you to vote, a character that you really like or feel really in tune with. So, for example, on this first one, this is a really tough one for a lot of reasons because Deadpool, a very fun, one-shot, sarcastic, funny, intelligent one-shot could be written around Deadpool. But Magic, for me, is a character that I really enjoyed in Marvel Avengers Alliance. I really enjoyed in Marvel Heroes. I don't play her too much in Rivals because I don't really lean heavily into the melee characters. But Magic has always been a very interesting character to me. So this is an extremely tough bracket. Doctor Doom has sort of the situation going on that I talked about. He could use a little bit of love because, as you know, by the time the end game rolled around with Doctor Doom, he was utter trash. If you saw Doctor Doom in PvP, he had about the same amount of hit points as the agent that you were facing. So you were literally in a 3-on-2 situation where the two really had no benefit. It was a handicap match if you wanted to quote like WWE or something like that. Yet Moon Knight could be really, really fun to make a one-shot around because of the multiple personalities, the fact that he's had a semi-recent series and everything. Very high DPS character in Marvel Rivals, usually has good representation in the games that he's in, has lots of cool uniforms like Mr. Knight and all that. So, boy, these brackets are tough. Nico and Blade, Taskmaster and Heimdall. This is one of the few that for me is a very easy pick. Taskmaster. Heimdall is very good at what he does. He's good at shutting down stealth. He's good at being neurotrope, but better as his stuff is guaranteed. But I think Taskmaster is an overall easier character to do a narrative around. Agent Venom, Spider-Man 2099, and then a one-shot based on teams came down to the Brotherhood of Mutants and Midnight Suns. Brotherhood of Mutants is a team that I've been pulling for the whole way. Sadly, one of my choice picks the entire time was Anti-Venom, and he didn't make it here. I think Spider-Man 2099 is the one who took him out at the knees over here. There is some discussion that AGV is going to run this one over here. I'm really surprised 2099 made it this far because the second Spider-Verse movie portrays him to be, I wouldn't even say kind of a dick, just a massive dick. And not very much on the heroic side. Now, obviously, that could be different in comics. And in game, I always thought Spider-Man 2099 was kind of fun. I hated Miles Morales in Marvel Avengers Alliance. I think Superior Spider-Man was better. Spino or Spider-Man Noir was better. And Spider-Man 2099, especially that head chomp. That head chomp move that he did, I always thought was vicious as hell. I was like, wow, this is a really... It's not gory because it's not blood, but I was like, this is a really violent ability in this game. I thought it was not over the top in a bad way, but a very intense ability. But yeah, Agent Venom versus Spider-Man 2099. Vote for a guy who I typically wouldn't vote for, or vote for a guy who took out my big time pick. Crazy on that one. So here is how some of the brackets were panning out towards the end over here. Taking a look at it, Runaways over the Sinister Six, pretty big margin. And then Runaways just slightly lost to Brotherhood of the Mutants. That's a tough one over there. I think I voted Runaways because I like them. Agents of Smash, I really don't care. Asgardians versus Defenders. Defenders came out on top just a bit, and then went against the Inhumans, who came through the Lady Liberators by a wide margin. And then Defenders slightly on top of Inhumans, and then they got trounced by the Brotherhood of Mutants. And on the other side of the brackets, Excalibur came through Avengers pretty handily. Again, like, I'm happy to see this one because we have so much Avengers content. Let's give somebody else a chance. West Coast Avengers got fucking spiked by Spider Army, and Excalibur just barely beat Spider Army by 1 vote. That's super tight. Demand a recount. Fake news. Recount. Midnight Suns beat up X-Force pretty handily over there. X-Men barely squeaked through Illuminati. And then Midnight Suns demolished the X-Men. Wow. And then Midnight Suns demolished Excalibur. There's a lot of Midnight Suns fans out there. I can imagine that. They have a cool aesthetic. Their work in Marvel Snap is pretty fun. Of course, there is the XCOM game, which I think brought them to everybody's highlight. They have that mystical nature to them. So Midnight Suns 10th seed versus Brotherhood of the Mutants is going to be a good final. And to be honest, based on raw numbers here, with Brotherhood being at 122 and Midnight Suns being at 145, it's going to be really tight. These are huge numbers they've put up along the way. And I got to say, probably going to go to Midnight Suns. Midnight Suns just came out of their bracket strong on each one, whereas Brotherhood of the Mutants almost fell to Runaways despite demolishing the Defenders in Sinister Six. So my prediction, Midnight Suns takes it, but I think it's going to be probably within about 15. Is there any character votes over here? Yeah, okay. So let's see who came through who. Where is my Agent Venom? I think I'm supposed to obviously look for Spider-Man 2099. And I'm not seeing him on this one, so he must have come through a different bracket. I want to see how badly he got beat up. Don't have a result for that one, but Anti-Venom came through Spider-Gwen pretty easily. Who can't bounce Beetle? Really surprised at that. Him versus Misty Knight is way far and away Beetle than I thought it would. That one is a bit surprising. So we had the symbiote setup over here of Anti-Venom versus Hybrid. And man, did Anti-Venom just absolutely blow Hybrid out of the water. And Spider-Man 2099 was super close with Spider-Man Noir. That's crazy. He just barely eked it out over Spider-Man Noir. Yet I think he beat up Anti-Venom pretty heavily. Let me see if I can find... Okay, here's the results. Yeah, wow. Anti-Venom got beat up really bad by Spider-Man 2099, who just kind of barely came out of a few brackets. So let's see what we got going on over here. Silk over Daredevil. That's really cool. I was pulling for Silk all the way because I've read some stuff that she's an even better... she's a better spinner than Spider-Man himself, at least Peter Parker. And Silk is just always fun. She's got a cool story I would like to see elevated a little bit. I think a lot of people hoped White Tiger would go out just because of that overpowered nature that she had when she dropped. I'm surprised she lasted as long as she did. But man, Agent Venom, just beat the crap out of her. And Agent Venom, unfortunately, beat up on Silk pretty badly. I was kind of pulling for Silk, to be honest. I think I'm in a bit of a rare spot that I'm not really pulling for Ag-V. Over Electro, yes. Over Craven, yes. Over White Tiger, yes. But I wouldn't have picked him over Silk. On the other side of the brackets down here, Spider-Man 2099 beat up on Sub-Spider pretty well. Jessica Jones over Rescue. Christ, people. This was the bracket I absolutely hated. This bracket is so boring. It's just so vanilla as hell. Rescue versus Jessica Jones. This is just a pit of despair. Artax took one look at this bracket and went right back into the swamp. War Machine Punisher, that's a tough one, but it didn't look tough. Spider-Man to War over Shocker, yeah, Shocker's pathetic in this game. And then Spider-Man to War just barely beat out Punisher. Tough bracket there. I gotta admit, 2099 going ham over Jessica Jones is something I would like to see, but really just barely eked it out over Nicolas Cage here. And then sadly beat up on my guy Anti-Venom. Let's see the last couple brackets over here. Let's trace the path of Nico. So Nico came through FISA big time. I wouldn't mind seeing FISA get some love. She was late game. She's a very strong character related to Excalibur. She could have been fun, and honestly, iterating on a backstory of a character we don't really know very well could have been good fodder for a very talented story team, but we got Nico on that one. She barely got through Captain Britain, and then she just kicked Star-Lord off the edge of the universe over there, who went through Victor and Mantis pretty handily. Up here at the top, we've got Gamora going through Nova by a reasonable amount. Going through Satana, wow. I think I would pull for Satana in that bracket over there. And then going through Groot, a member of her own team, just by 2 votes. Yeah, that's a tough call on that one. I can't say who I would pull for on that. Groot really just destroyed Drax, no pun intended. Somebody who actually really beat up on Phyla-Vell pretty well. Mantis beat out Ronan. Here on the right side, Moondragon over Richard Rider, and then fell to Damon pretty badly. And Damon just, wow, ran away with it off a Blade. I would expect this one to be closer than it was. Maybe it's the sour taste in people's mouth from the Hellstrom series. Maybe it's an intense love for Blade and his return in Deadpool 3, but maybe it's because he's got the worthy, so he's already got a pretty good kit going there. Chase didn't even show up to the fight. Chase stayed home. Kind of sad. It's Morbin Time did better against Rocket than I thought, but Rocket fell to Blade in a huge blowout. Ghost Rider cruised past Elsa, and sadly Union Jack. I really like Union Jack. He's very, very good at what he does, and I think Union Jack is a tremendously underrated character. I would love to see him go through stuff, but Union Jack versus Molly is a super tough bracket for me, because I really like both of those characters. Carolina Dean, I really like, at least from the series and in the game, but Adam Warlock beat her and then fell to Doctor Strange pretty easily, and then Strange had come through Voodoo, a reasonable victory, and then fell to Ghost Rider, and Blade beat up Ghost Rider by 14, and Nico just smashed Gamora over there. There's Magic and Deadpool, Doctor Doom and Moon Knight. I won't keep you guys too much further. I'll just leave this on the screen for a few moments over here. If you're not on Discord or whatever, you can just pause it and take a look at Doctor Doom's journey. We'll just go with the top 4 here. Dr. Doom's journey was pretty much set in stone the whole way through. Him versus Hawkeye. Again, this is another one where I think Hawkeye, the plot team, could write some good stuff for him. But Doom sent him packing. Moon Knight came through Blue Marvel very easily, Kate very easily, Quake very easily. Yeah, you can see how he would run that gamut over there. Black Panther dueled it out with Winter Soldier, who went on to face Moon Knight, but Moon Knight really ran away with it over there pretty handily. Kang got some love, but even Kang couldn't go up against Winter Soldier, but it was close. And then Moon Knight just beat up on him pretty bad. Here in the final four, Gambit cruised almost all the way, but then fell to Magic, which is kind of surprising. Gambit fans always seem to kind of be pretty rabid about him, whereas I feel like Magic fans seem to be pretty tame, like they really like her, but they're not going to go overboard about it. And yet, the people I know that are super into Gambit are super into Gambit. Here, Deadpool came through Shatterstar. That's funny. And then Juggernaut. Juggernaut! I'm going to rip you in half now. Really beat up on Wolverine. This one is surprising. I would kind of feel like Deadpool and Wolverine would be closer than it is. Somehow my boy Angel came through the ranks pretty well. Beat up on Sabretooth. Distanced himself pretty well from Kitty Pryde. Eked it out over Cable, but then got clobbered by Deadpool over here, which is not surprising. Cable did pretty well too. And that is it. So that is how the bracket shaped out. I think for me personally, that Molly Union Jack bracket was really, really tough. And I wish Anti-Venom had gone further. I had him through a lot of picks. Him versus Hybrid is tough, but for me, Union Jack versus Molly is definitely one of the toughest ones. And honestly, a tough one is Rescue versus Jessica Jones, because in my opinion, they're just garbage. Rescue is very, very good at what she does, and that is keeping the team alive and running, a good stall defense in PvP, which you don't really have to worry about that anymore. But she's a very good support agent. Doctor Strange does healing better. But she's solid over around when her kid is working and the bugs aren't there. Jessica Jones, in all honesty, to me, is just vanilla drunk. It's just drunken mayonnaise, in my opinion. I absolutely despise her in all the games that she's in. I have no desire to watch the series, so picking the worst of the worst over there would be tough. But there you go, guys. Check it out on Discord for the voting and everything. I will put a link to the final brackets in the description down below. Get your votes in and vote on who, as a individual character, you want a one-shot written for, and who, as a team, you want a one-shot for. And again, for the team, it is coming down to the Brotherhood of Mutants versus Midnight Suns, and that's one of the only ones I'll make a prediction on. And I'm going to say it's going to be Midnight Suns by 10 to 15 over the Brotherhood of the Mutants. Thanks for checking out the video, everybody. Hope you enjoyed it.